to PPSIMMONS Television, and today another Republican steps in it. And today we're talking about Richard Murdoch, and he's all over the news this morning talking about comments that he made during a debate last night. Richard Murdoch is running for the Indiana Senate. He's a Republican. And he said last night during a debate, he said, when a woman is impregnated during a rape, it's something God intended. And I want to talk about this and get into what he may have meant here. But let's listen to Murdoch. Now, this is an ABC News report. We're going to talk about what Murdoch said, then we're going to take a break, and then we're going to talk about what the reporter said after that. So it's a twofold video topic today. So let's listen to let's get some sound up here.
This morning, a Midwest Republican has reignited the firestorm over rape and pregnancy originally set off by Missouri Congressman Todd Akin. Now, during a debate with his opponent last night, Indiana Senate hopeful Richard Murdoch was asked whether abortion should be allowed in cases of rape or incest.
I struggled with it myself for a long time, but I came to realize life is that gift from God, and I think even when life begins in that horrible situation of rape, that it is something that God intended to happen.
All right. Now, you know what? Did he say that? He said that, right? He said it's something that God intended to happen. He said those words. He should not have said those words. He should not have said it's something God intended to happen. Because when you listen to that, you just know that it's wrong. It's wrong to say it because it's not true. God created the templates and the systems which allow pregnancy to happen, but God is not causing every individual pregnancy to take place. He's just not. When the right circumstances are in place, when the sperm makes it up to the egg, makes it into the egg, the chromosomes mix, a pregnancy happens, God is not doing that himself personally. And here's why. Here's why Mr. Murdoch should just have kept his mouth shut. Or at least said, this should be the standing template whenever it comes to, and we'll allow all of the candidates to use this. This should be what is said when Akin spoke, when this Murdoch spoke, when all the other Republicans talk about abortion and rape. This is what they should say. Rape is a horrible, horrible thing. But killing an unborn child doesn't solve the rape problem. It only results in heaping evil upon evil. So that what happens is an innocent child is killed, and the woman is then forced to endure health problems that result from having an abortion. And these include, but are not limited to, cancer. Because most major medical associations acknowledge the link between abortion and breast cancer, for example. So the rape itself is horrendous. It's something that most of us can't even imagine. But to then kill an unborn child who is not at fault, and then to force the woman, or to have the woman go through the added tragedy of the health risks associated with abortion, that is not proper, and we do not endorse that. That should be the line that is towed here. Not that God did it, because that's what he said. Now he's backtracking on it. He's saying, oh, rape is horrible, and God does not condone it, and blah. But why did he say it? People should not be blamed for being horrified that this man would say such a thing. And he did say it. Let's go back and listen to him now.
Indiana Senate hopeful Richard Murdoch was asked whether abortion should be allowed in cases of rape or incest.
I struggled with it myself for a long time, but I came to realize life is that gift from God. And I think even when life begins in that horrible situation of rape, that it is something that God intended to happen.
He said that when pregnancy happens during rape, it's something God intended to happen. He did say that. Not all pregnancies are the will of God. They're just not. What is the biblical example of this? Well, I hate to tell you, but it's the greatest example of all. Now, here's my Bible. You can get this Bible for free at theophilus.com. Abraham had a covenant with God, and the covenant was through Sarah, his wife, Abraham would have a son. And that through that son, through Sarah's womb, Abraham's descendants would become so numerous you wouldn't be able to count them. And that's how that was going to happen. Now here we are in Genesis 17, and God says, I will bless her and give thee a son also of her. I will bless her, and she will be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Abraham falls on his face and laughs and says in his heart, shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear? And Abraham said unto God, oh, that Ishmael may live forever. Now what had just happened here? What happened was, if you back up in this story, Sarah went to Abraham. Now Sarah had a slave girl, a servant girl. Her name was Hagar, and Hagar was a young girl. And Sarah, this couple's getting old. Abraham's 100 years old, Sarah's 90. Sarah goes to Abraham and says, look, maybe God wants you to have a child by my servant Hagar. Abraham's like, yeah, right on. So he goes into Hagar, and what happens? Well, he's a man. He goes and he has sex with a young woman. And what happens is the system that God set into place, it kicks into gear. Hagar gets pregnant, bears a child. Was any of that the will of God? No, it wasn't. Ishmael was not the will of God. Ishmael was born outside of the will of God. And look what happened. Ishmael became the father of the Arabs, and now today we have the Muslim Jewish Western world conflict today, because it all goes back to Abraham having a child outside the will of God. That's why that all happened. And if you study the life of Ishmael and the prophecies stated about Ishmael, it all lines up with where we are today, the battle between the Muslim communities and the Jewish Christian communities. That's where this all comes from. One guy who had a child outside of the will of God. So not all pregnancies fall within the realm of God doing it. They just don't. But listen, I've got some encouraging words for you on this. God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. But Abraham pleaded with God. You remember Abraham fell on his face and he laughed and he said in his heart, shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And he says, O God, as verse 18, as Genesis 17 was saying, O God, that Ishmael might live before thee. So what happens there is Abraham is acting upon the promise that we have in the New Testament, because Abraham is the father of the faithful. Well, the new covenant is a fulfillment of Abraham's faith. And we find in the New Testament where it says that God is able to turn around whatever the enemy, the devil, intended for evil, God is able to turn it around for good. Abraham cries out to God and says, God, Abraham must have had a real love, a real emotional attachment to Ishmael, because he cries out to God and says, God, please let Ishmael live. And what does God say? He says in verse 21, "But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah, your wife, shall bear unto thee at this time in the next year." But God says to Abraham, "As for Ishmael, I have heard you." So God heard Abraham's cry about Ishmael. He says, "Behold, I have blessed him. I will make him fruitful, multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation." So now we have today the Nation of Islam. Now God blessed Ishmael's descendants because, what does it say? "I have heard thee," because God loved Abraham. So God blessed Ishmael's descendants because of what Abraham said, because Abraham requested it, and God was a friend of Abraham. So let's be clear on this. This is not something that needs to be really further discussed. Not every child that is born within the will of God. It's just not. Ishmael is the prime example. And if we go to the book of John, it says that Jesus. Well, let's go to it. We'll go to John. And you can get a little test on how to use this Bible here. In the drop down, so you go to John chapter 1, verse 1. Okay, let's go there. "In the beginning was the Word of God, and he gave it, but as many as received it." So this is John chapter 1, start in verse 10. "He was in the world, and the world was made by him." That's Jesus. "The world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not." Who's that? That's the Jewish people, the people of Israel, right? And they rejected him, right? They killed him, essentially. "But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God," right? The few Jews and the many Gentiles since, "become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name." Now this is verse 13. This is important. "Which were born not of blood, nor the will of the flesh, nor the will of man, but of God." You see that? There are many people today being born outside the will of God. Many people, many people. But God is faithful. God is pulling a remnant out for himself. So it's important that these politicians, we're going to take a break here now. It's important that these politicians just stop spouting the cliches. Well, God did it. God, one of the things that God will address when we get to the other side of life is, why did you blame me for all this stuff? You know you have an enemy in the world who roars or roams around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. You had an enemy. Why was I being blamed, God will say, for all the evil in the world? God is not doing it. Anyway, let's take this break, and when we get back, we're going to address the rest of that news clip and how the liberals reacted. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this word.
Could more powerfully, succinctly, and accurately speak to the message of your Christian faith and the Word of God? This is the book you need, The Magic Man in the Sky, Effectively Defending the Christian Faith. This book has been featured on TBN, Atlanta Live, dozens of radio programs, and hundreds of markets. It was rave reviewed by the Washington Times, and it was called a must-read book. Considering the times in which we now live, you need this book. Get it today on Amazon.com or the WND Superstore.
All right, and we're back. And we're back. I want to talk about the flip side of this, the liberal reaction. Now this is, let's make this screen bigger here. And this is, we're going to hear the reporters from abcnews.com or ABC News. We're just going to hear the rest of the report here because there's an obvious bias here. Now I want you guys to pay close attention to the African American reporter in this story, because he's going to say something quite astounding here.
Now, the comment, of course, drew immediate criticism from Murdoch's Democratic opponent, Joe Donnelly. The two are locked in a very tight race for Senate, and the Romney campaign issued an immediate statement saying the Republican presidential hopeful disagrees with the remark. Murdoch later explained he didn't mean God intended the rape, but that God is the only one who can create life. So he backtracked on his remarks somewhat here, but apparently this is obviously not an issue the Republicans want to discuss 2 weeks out there. The Aiken controversy. Now they have this, and Democratic folks have already kind of pounced on this a little.
See that guy? Who do you think that guy's voting for?
With the DNC chairwoman saying his rape comments are outrageous and demeaning to women. Unfortunately, they've become part and parcel of the modern Republican Party's platform toward women's health here. So
here we have, now I don't know, I'm not sure what side she's on, but this guy, he is going to come out now and just preach the Democrat message here. This is a news broadcast on ABC, but this guy's going to preach the Democrat platform here. Watch this.
They're smelling a trend here, trying to take advantage of it politically.
And Obama has that large, insurmountable lead among women, but if you do your research...
That's dwindled, though.
It has dwindled, but it's still insurmountable. But he says that he's not going to get rid of birth control, and he is for abortion in the cases of rape or incest or when it endangers the mother. So he's taking more of a moderate approach to abortion, whereas opposed there's some on the extreme sides of the...
Now the African-American fella, now he's going to ramp it up. He's going to say, look, this all hinges on Paul Ryan. He's going to come after Paul Ryan now here. Listen to this. Because he's going to say, listen for him to say, Paul Ryan is close to the White House. He could become president. And Paul Ryan is against abortion at any case. So he's saying that Paul Ryan being a step away from the presidency, plus the ability of presidents to appoint Supreme Court justices, and now you're going to hear this guy reveal you're going to hear this fellow reveal how he is trying to promote Barack Obama in the newscast.
Left and the right.
Yeah, I mean, and like Paul Ryan, before he got on the ticket, didn't support any exemptions now, but he's obviously become more moderate, or at least says he is, to get, on the ticket. But again,
it's not his ticket.
Presidents come and go. Their Supreme Court nominees stay for life, and that's the real legacy of any presidency. And, Paul Ryan would be a heartbeat away, the same way Joe Biden would be a heartbeat away. So something to keep in mind with women as important in this election as they are. This women's health issue is critical to watch and see how the parties respond to this today.
Yeah. So in other words, look, women, the gap is narrowing. You guys got to come on board with this, because Paul Ryan's only a step away from the presidency, and Supreme Court justices, they last a long time. So come on now. This is the mainstream media totally in bed with the Obama camp here. It is so obvious. That's why they're bringing up the Murdoch thing. That's why this is such a big issue, because they want to make it an issue, because the gap between Romney and Ryan in the women's vote is narrowing, and ABC News is saying, come on, women. Now, Paul Ryan, he's against abortion ever, and you don't want Paul Ryan in the womb, so let's get together now and let's get Romney out, keep him out, keep the conservative platform away. We got to get the Obama back in, because he is a baby-killing sodomite. Now, those are my words. They didn't say that. Those are my words. But that's essentially what we're talking about here, with Barack Obama's evolution from the I believe that women, the marriage is between a man and a woman, to we shouldn't be deciding who people love. Right? You know what? That's the show today. We're done. We could go on and on about this, but let's just end it here. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.